Hello, friends. Welcome to Bookku. Today, we are going to talk about the book Control Your Thoughts by Peter Hollins. It was 3 a.m., and Sanvi was still far from sleep. Tossing and turning in bed, she was staring at the ceiling as though some answer was hidden there. The gentle, cool breeze coming through the window of her room made the silence outside even more pronounced, with only the sound of her heavy breathing echoing in the stillness. She kept picking up her phone, only to put it down again. She knew sleep was not coming, but her mind couldn't settle on a single thought. This wasn't the first time it had happened. For the past few months, it felt like her life was being crushed under an invisible weight. At work, everyone considered her sorted, a successful software engineer whose life was set. But inside, Sanvi was feeling like she was breaking apart. "You overthink," her friend Priya often said when Sanvi talked about her fears, anxieties, and pointless worries. Maybe I am the problem, she thought. This thought had been circling her mind so often that it started to feel like truth. And tonight felt different. Sanvi felt like her mind had turned against her. One small thing, her manager's tone on a client call, and the rest of the day, she chewed on it like something she couldn't get rid of. She dissected every word, tried to decode every sentence, and then blamed herself. And now, in the silence of the night, those voices echoed in her head. "You'll never be enough." She got up, drank some water, and picked up the diary she had kept in the corner of her room. She had loved writing since college, but now it had become a place to dump her fears, thoughts, and guilt. Today, however, she did something different. She asked herself, "Does what I think define my reality?" She stared at the pen for a moment, then slowly began writing. "Today, I judged myself the entire day. There was nothing unusual about the conversation on the call, but my mind kept rewinding it. I called myself useless, weak, and a failure. Why? Because my mind told me the same story it always does." She paused and realized these weren't external events disturbing her, but her own thoughts, her own standards, fears, and doubts. If my thoughts create my reality, she thought, then can I change my reality? She had never observed her own thinking this way before, like reading someone else's story. Every time she criticized herself, she was repeating an old belief from childhood. Asterisk, I have to prove I'm worth it. Without perfection, I'm nothing. Asterisk. She remembered an incident from her childhood when her teacher had told her, "Sanvi, you're too slow. Focus more." From that moment, she had believed that she wasn't fast enough, that she would always have to push herself more to be worthy. She wrote in her diary, "Asterisk thoughts are not truths. They are just perspectives. The stories I repeat become my identity, but I can change those stories." Asterisk, for the first time, she saw herself as an observer, like a scientist conducting an experiment in a lab, and in that observation, she found her power. All the worries, the questions, the opinions of others, she had accepted them as truth for years. But today, she realized it wasn't necessary to accept every thought that came to her. She closed the diary and opened the window. The sky outside was turning pale blue, and a new morning was approaching. She silently said to herself, "Asterisk, I won't trust every thought. I will first see if it works for me or not." Asterisk. She took a deep breath. For the first time, it felt like something light was shifting inside her. She knew this wouldn't change in a single day, but she had taken the first step, recognizing her thought patterns. It was just the beginning. She was still the same Sanvi with the same job and insecurities, but now she had a new perspective. And from that perspective, she could see the noise inside her mind from a distance, as though a curtain had been lifted from her eyes. The next morning, when Sanvi woke up, the soft sunlight coming through the window was falling on her face. Something felt different, subtle but real. She was still in the same room, facing the same deadlines, emails, and walls, but something had shifted inside her. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her hair was messy, there were signs of tiredness under her eyes, but she felt a clarity she had never felt before. She softly said to herself, "Today, I will choose my thoughts." It was a simple sentence, but it carried a power that Sanvi had never seen before. As she made tea in the kitchen, the old thoughts tried to creep back in. Asterisk, what about yesterday's call? What will today bring? Asterisk, and the usual thoughts about her boss and clients. But this time she paused. She asked herself, am I choosing these thoughts, or are they just automatic thoughts repeating by habit? She turned off the gas, poured the tea into a cup, and sat in the balcony. She opened her diary and wrote, Asterisk, it's not necessary to accept every thought that comes to my mind. I can be the observer. I will think intentionally from now on. Asterisk, as she was sipping tea, Priya noticed that Sanvi seemed more grounded. You look less stressed today, Priya said. Sanvi smiled and replied, Asterisk, for the first time, I didn't fight my thoughts. I just chose them. Asterisk, Priya was a bit confused, so Sanvi explained, Asterisk, it means that whenever a negative, doubtful, or anxious thought came to my mind, I didn't just accept it. I asked myself if I believed it, if it was true, and if it was helping me. And then I decided which thought to hold on to. Asterisk, Priya paused for a moment and then said, Wow, this is like mental gym. Sanvi agreed. Asterisk, exactly. You have to intentionally train your mindset, or else you'll stay in default mode, thinking thoughts that keep you unhappy. Asterisk. Later that evening, when Sanvi returned home, she felt exhausted but also a new kind of peace. She dimmed the lights in her room and turned on the meditation app. After a 5-minute mindfulness practice, she observed the thoughts of the day, some good, some troubling, but this time she wasn't judging them. She was just watching them, like sitting in a concert, hearing each instrument clearly, both the loud drums and the soft violins. She realized that when she said, I will choose my thoughts, she wasn't trying to control herself, but was setting herself free. That night, there was no battle, neither with herself nor her thoughts. Only a soft whisper in her heart, tomorrow I will choose my thoughts. The next morning, Sanvi woke up a little earlier. The sunlight hadn't fully entered the room, but a soft light was falling on her face. There was a new brightness in her eyes. After practicing intentional thinking the day before, she felt a new clarity, but there was something else surfacing, some old beliefs that now needed to be challenged. While making tea in the kitchen, an old thought came to her. Asterisk, I'm not capable of big things. I'm just average. Asterisk, this thought didn't come out of nowhere. It had been with her since childhood. She remembered a time when she failed in math at school, and her dad had told her, you work hard, but this might not be for you. That sentence had stuck with her, and every time a new challenge came up, she repeated it to herself. But today she caught that thought. Holding her tea, she asked herself, Asterisk, why do I keep repeating this? Who told me I'm just average? And if I believed it, can I change it? Asterisk. She sat down with her diary and opened a new page. She wrote, Asterisk, old belief, I'm just average. Big things are not for me. New belief, whatever I think, learn, and try, I can grow. My effort is not my limit. It's my strength. Asterisk. One by one, she looked at her old limiting beliefs like old dusty books on a shelf. Asterisk, people don't take me seriously. I don't have the skills others have. If I make a mistake, people will reject me. If no one loves me, I have no value. Asterisk, she observed each belief like a scientist observing bacteria under a microscope, neutral, curious. Then she started to reframe each belief, breaking old patterns and creating new, empowering statements, like opening new windows in the old rooms of her mind. Asterisk, if I take myself seriously, others will too. My work quality will define my respect. My skills are unique, and others can be learned. Mistakes are part of growth. If people judge me for my mistakes, they are not worthy of my growth. Asterisk, taking a deep breath, she felt like she was breaking down the walls of her own thoughts. At work, she received a new assignment, a project that involved presenting to a client. A few months ago, Sanvi would have declined the presentation without thinking twice. But today she paused. She thought, is my old belief that I'm not good at presentations still true? She observed the thought, but didn't act on it. Instead, she said to herself, Asterisk, I may be nervous, but I can learn. This is an opportunity to prove myself. Asterisk, Priya noticed that Sanvi seemed unusually calm. Something's changed in you, Priya said. Sanvi smiled and replied, Yes, I'm cleaning up my thinking, like clearing out old, useless stuff from my house. Priya laughed, \** exactly. She tells herself, but awareness is the torch that can guide us through the dark. One day, she wrote a line on her laptop wallpaper. Don't believe everything you think. And every time she opened her laptop, this line reconnected her to reality. Now, Sanvi's journey was not just moving from sustainability to growth, but also towards clarity. This clarity became like a calm, clear, and deep lake. Sanvi was now in a phase where her mind was more alert than ever before. She began to recognize her thinking patterns, started questioning her beliefs, and most importantly, started controlling her responses. But this new clarity sometimes shone so brightly that it began to hurt her eyes. One day, a fire drill alarm went off suddenly at the company. Everyone panicked and rushed outside. Some left their files behind, some grabbed their phones, and others started giving directions to each other. Sanvi also started running, but halfway through, she stopped. She asked herself, is this panic genuine or just a herd reaction? She looked around. There was no smoke, no smell, just the alarm and chaos. She remembered that she had received an email about the fire drill. This must be it, she thought. She took a deep breath, smiled, and calmly walked toward the stairs. A while later, everyone returned, but Sanvi was still deep in thought. I could have reacted, but I responded. This was the first glimpse of the clarity that was now finding a place in her life. A few days later, her team had to give a major presentation. The client was aggressive, expectations were high, and all the pressure was on her shoulders. There was tension in the team, passive aggression in messages, impatience in calls. If it had been the old Sanvi, she might have stayed up all night pushing herself too hard. But this time, she did something different. She sent everyone a message, *, let's do a 15-minute silent meeting. No talking, just sit with your eyes closed. * at first, everyone laughed. Someone asked, Sanvi, have you become a guru? But when the meeting happened and everyone actually sat silently for a few minutes, the atmosphere changed. No one had thought that silence could be so powerful. After the meeting, her junior said, today, for the first time, it felt like my brain was restarted. Sanvi smiled. Staying calm is not a luxury, it's a survival tool. Now, she started taking intentional breaks every day, sometimes standing on the balcony watching the clouds, sometimes sitting in a random park without her phone, sometimes just observing someone sitting in front of her. One day, while traveling in the metro, amidst the usual rush, people immersed in their phones, some arguing on the phone, she noticed an elderly woman sitting next to her, her hands trembling but her face completely still. Sanvi quietly asked, is everything okay? The woman smiled lightly and said, * yes. Dear, I've made it a habit not to react to anything anymore. I just sit, observe, and let time teach me when to rise. * that sentence struck her deeply. Observe before you act. She knew that clarity was not possible without calmness, and calmness doesn't come without practice. Now she began training herself to see situations without judgment, to accept them as they are. When a colleague presented her idea in a meeting without acknowledging her, she didn't react. Her instinct said, confront them. But she asked herself, am I seeing this with clarity or with ego? After a moment, she casually asked her colleague, what else did you think about my suggestion? The colleague replied, *, sorry, I forgot to mention it. Thanks for that idea. It worked great. Sanvi just smiled and said, * next time, don't forget to give credit. No drama, no fight, no emotional spiral. * she understood that not every battle needs to be fought. Some battles are won in silence. One day, on a weekend, she joined a silent retreat workshop. For 2 days, no phones, no conversations, just being with herself. At first, it felt odd, not talking, not sharing laughter or emotions. But as time passed, she realized her inner voice, which had always been in the background, was now coming forward. * you're too harsh on yourself. You always focus on the outcome, not the process. You chase clarity, but fear the noise. * she had previously avoided these voices, but now she welcomed them. Gradually, those voices quieted, as if they only needed to be heard. On the way back from the retreat, she felt very light. She now understood that calmness is not a reaction, but a cultivated skill, and clarity is not a sudden insight, but the result of patience and practice. She still felt stress, still had fears, but the difference was that she could observe these emotions without reacting. Now, when someone hurt her, she asked herself, is this the result of their actions or my expectations? When things didn't go as planned, she asked, am I seeing this situation as it is or as I want it to be? She no longer judged herself. Instead, she gently reminded herself that response is greater than reaction. One evening, as she sat in her room, she remembered a childhood story. A sage returns to his village, and the villagers ask him how he remains so calm. The sage says, asterisk, I don't react. I just observe, then think, and then speak. Asterisk, Sanvi wrote in her diary, asterisk, calmness is not weakness, it's a form of strength. Clarity is not knowing everything, it's knowing what matters. Asterisk, now, she no longer ran after clarity, she allowed its space to come to her. And Sanvi's journey was not over, for the search for peace is not always outward, but inward. And clarity is not a destination, it is a daily practice. It was around 5:30 p.m. when, on her way back from the office, Sanvi took a turn without any plan. No cafe, no meeting, no promise to meet a friend, just walking down an unfamiliar path, as if her mind said, let's go somewhere else, where you can encounter yourself. She went toward an old colony, a place where she had spent her childhood but hadn't visited in years. The neem tree at the gate was still there. Children were playing below, and a distant old woman sat with her old radio. The air had a faint smell of earth, like memories from the past coming back to life. Sitting on an iron bench nearby, she closed her eyes for a while, and then a face appeared in front of her eyes. Her old friend Anvita, whose friendship had ended after class 10 due to a misunderstanding, an ego clash, and then silence. Sanvi remembered how Anvita had made fun of her in front of someone else, and how she had promised herself never to forgive her. That promise had stayed deep inside her for years, so deep that she had even forgotten that she was still carrying it. Sanvi asked herself, asterisk, am I still angry at Anvita? Am I still holding on to that moment? Asterisk, she answered, maybe not, but I've never consciously let go of that pain. She knew growth is incomplete until the baggage is gone. That night after coming home, she opened her diary and started a new page. She wrote a letter to Anvita, asterisk, what you did broke me, but today I understand that we were both immature. You hurt me, and I trapped myself in that hurt. Today, I'm opening that door and forgiving you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Asterisk, she didn't send the letter, nor did she need to. The process, the acceptance, was for her. She was now accepting herself the same way. Mistakes, anger, insecurity, but also a pure intention to grow. Sometimes we forgive others but not ourselves. Sanvi had been through this too. She was ashamed of the moments when she had yelled at her brother, ignored her mother, or scolded an intern who was just nervous. One day, while listening to a self-compassion session on a meditation app, there was a line, talk to yourself the way you would talk to a dear friend. She asked herself, if my best friend made this mistake, would I hold her to a lifetime of guilt? The answer was no. She would hug her and say, it's okay. So, why not do the same for herself? One night, she looked at her old pictures, the nervous Sanvi on her first day of college, the excited Sanvi in her first job, the crying Sanvi after a heartbreak. Each photo was a version of her that, somewhere, had led to the present one. She cried while looking at those photos, but this time, the tears were not of shame, but of acceptance. Asterisk, I am complete just as I am. I am not incomplete. Asterisk, the next day, she gifted herself a small silver bracelet with the words, I forgive you. Now she no longer held on to every grievance. When someone was rude in the office, she asked herself, is this their struggle or my value? When past memories came to mind, she told herself that version did the best they could. One weekend, she went to a workshop called Release and Rise. Everyone was asked to write the names of those they hadn't forgiven. She wrote 2 names, Anvita and herself. As she burned the paper, she only said one thing, you can no longer take my time. She realized that forgiveness is not a favor, it's self-respect. And acceptance is not surrender, it's a choice. Now, when she wakes up in the morning, no one makes her tea. She stands in front of the mirror, looks into her own eyes, and says, Asterisk, I have let go of all your complaints. You are free to move forward. Asterisk, and that is her new beginning, a place where gratitude replaces grievances. So friends, this was today's book summary. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for listening to the summary till the end. Their autonomy.
Like, comment, and subscribe.